Good morning all. In this session, we are going to deal with introspection method. Educational psychology deals with the study of human behavior in educational situations. For studying the human behavior, it takes the help of various methods. Introspection is one of the important methods used in educational psychology. So, in this video, we are going to discuss about what is introspection method in psychology. What is introspection as reflection? Is introspection used as a research technique? What are the merits and demerits of introspection and examples of introspection? Introspection method. The term introspection is originated from the two Latin words, intro and spection. Intro means within. Spection means looking or observing. Thus, introspection means looking within oneself in order to examine one's own thoughts and feelings. It is also known as subjective observation method. This is the oldest method used in educational psychology. It is a process of examining one's own mental processes of thoughts, feelings, and motives. So, it is also known as self-observation method or self-examination method. Once again, I repeat, introspection method. It is originated from two Latin words, intro and spection. Intro means within. Spection means looking or observing. It is also known as subjective observation method. It is an oldest method of educational psychology. It is also known as self-observation method or self-examination method. So, in this method, an individual observes himself, or we can say his mental state and behavior. So, it is a sort of self-observation in which the individual looks within, that is, introspects, observes, analyzes, and report his own mental state or feelings. William Wood, the father of modern psychology, also a structuralist, was the first to adopt introspection to experimental psychology. Once again, I repeat, in this method, an individual observes himself, or we can say his mental state and behavior. It is an examination of conscious thoughts and feelings. That is, observation or examination of one's own mental and emotional state. In this method, an individual goes through introspects, observes, analyzes, and report his own feelings. William Wood, the father of modern psychology, was the first to adopt introspection to experimental psychology. Next is introspection as reflection. When we reflect on our thoughts, emotions, and memories and examine what they mean, we are engaged in introspection. That is, introspection is a part of reflection. Introspection as reflection. When we reflect on our thoughts, emotions, and memories and examine what they mean, we are engaged in introspection. Now we are going to discuss about how introspection is used as a research technique. The term introspection is also used to describe a research technique that was first developed by psychologist William Wundt. It is also known as experimental self-observation. His technique involved training people to carefully and objectively as possible to analyze the content of their own thoughts. That is, once again I repeat, introspection as a research technique. The term introspection is also used to describe a research technique that was first developed by psychologist William Wundt. It is also known as experimental self-observation. Wundt's technique involved training people to carefully and objectively as possible to analyze the content of their own thoughts. Next, we are going to discuss about the historical background of introspection method. The word introspection came from Latin words intro and spection. Intro means within, spection means or spec means looking or look. Historically, introspection is the oldest method of all, which was formerly used in philosophy and then in psychology to collect data about the conscious experience of the subject. In 17th century, René Descartes held that all mental states are subject to introspection. That is sufficient to have a mental state to be aware of it, and that when one introspects, he cannot be mistaken about what he says. In 19th century, psychologist William Wood and E.B. Titchener, as well as those in more recent times in the area of cognitive science, have used introspection to try to uncover the process of the human mind by asking to recount their thinking, perceptions, feelings, and so forth in a variety of situations. Now, introspection was the principal method of structuralism school led by William Wundt in Germany and E.B. Titchener in America. They defined psychology as the study of conscious experiences of the individual. But the behaviorist John B. Watson condemned introspection as unreliable and opposed the consideration of all notions of subjective experiences and questions of consciousness. They emphasized only on observable behavior that can be analyzed in terms of measurable stimuli and responses. What are the historical backgrounds of introspection method? The word introspection came from Latin words intro and spec. Intro means within, spec means look. It is an older method of educational psychology, educational philosophy. In 17th century, René Descartes and in 19th century, psychologist William Wood and E.B. Titchener used the method of introspection in variety of situations. It is the principal method of structuralism school. Behaviorist John B. Watson opposed the method of introspection. Here we are going to discuss the stages of introspection method. There are three clear stages of introspection. First stage is during the observation of external object. The person begins to ponder over his own mental state. For example, while listening to music, which is to him pleasant or unpleasant, he starts thinking about his own mental state. Second stage is the person begins to question the working of his own mind. He thinks and analyzes why has he said such or such things, why has he talked in a particular manner, and so on. And the last stage is he tries to frame the laws and conditions of the mental processes. He thinks in terms of improvement of his reasoning or the control of his emotional status. This stage helps in the advancement of our scientific knowledge. The introspection method has merits as well as demerits. First, let us consider the merits of introspection method. It is the cheapest and most economical method of studying behavior. We do not need any apparatus or laboratory for its use. It is the cheapest and most economical method of studying behavior. We do not need any apparatus or laboratory for its use. While using experimental method to study the mental activities, a laboratory and scientific instrument are required. But for the use of introspection method, no laboratory or test materials are required. So, introspection method can be used at any time and at anywhere. It is an easy and simple method and provides direct observation of mental processes. Introspection is the only method by which the person can be directly aware of his own experience. What are the merits of introspection method? First point is it is the cheapest and most economical method of studying behavior. We do not need any apparatus or laboratory for its use. This method can be used at any time at anywhere. You can introspect while walking, traveling, sitting on a bed and so on. It is the easiest method and readily available to an individual. The introspection data is first-hand as the person himself examines his own activities. Now, introspection has generated research which gradually leads to the development of the more objective methods. It is still used in all experimental investigation. It is the only method with the help of which an individual can know his emotions and feelings. In spite of some merits, the method of introspection has some demerits. The observer and the observed are the same. Hence, there is an ample scope for the individual to lie deliberately and hide the facts to mislead others. The subjective observational report provided lacks objectivity, as the verbal report of the subject cannot be verified by other scientists. Furthermore, the experiences of one person cannot be generalized to understand the mental activity of another person. The mental processes cannot be stated as mental processes would differ from person to person. Thus, the method lacks scientific validity. The expected to observer is expected to perform two mental activities simultaneously. He experiences his mental processes and at the same time analyzes what these experiences were like. At the same time, he acts as the observed and the observer. Obviously, his mental experiences would be distorted and not reflect the true nature of mental activities. The method of subjective observation cannot be applied to the study of the mental activities of the animals, children, and persons having language disabilities. Thus, introspection has only a limited activity. The demerits of introspection method are The data collected by introspection cannot be verified. An individual cannot pass through the same mental state again and again. There is no independent way to check the data. The data collected through introspection lacks validity and reliability. It is impossible to acquire validity and exactness in self-observation of one's own mental processes. The data collected by introspection is highly subjective. It has a danger of being biased and influenced by preconceptions of the individual. The observer and the observed are the same, hence there is an ample scope for the individual to lie deliberately and hide the facts to mislead others. Introspection cannot be applied to children, animals, and abnormal people. Introspection is logically defective one, and the same person is the experimenter and observer. It is not possible for same individual to act as an experimenter as well as an observer. Thus, introspection is logically defective. Now we are going to discuss some examples of introspection method. We know that introspection is the examination of your own thoughts, emotions, motivations, behavior and character. This is a fundamental type of intelligence that allows a person to improve their mental processes over time. The following are illustrative examples or applications of introspection method. Suppose you are happy and in a state of happiness, you look within yourself. It is said you are introspecting your own mental feelings and examine what is going on in your mental processes in the state of happiness. Similarly, you may introspect yourself in the state of anger and fear, etc. Introspection is also defined as the notice which the mind takes of itself. Meditation helps to understand your feelings. That is, the inspection of one's own thoughts and feelings leads to self-consciousness. When you meditate to try to understand your feelings, that is, a looking inward, specifically the act or process of self-examination or inspection of one's own thoughts and feelings, which leads to self-consciousness. Next, a regular practice of self-reflection can help you to achieve your goals in future. A regular practice of self-reflection and introspection can help you take the right actions today to achieve your goals in the future. Self-reflection helps to build emotional self-awareness by taking the time to ask yourself the important questions. You gain a better understanding of your emotions, strengths, and weaknesses. Once you understand important aspects of the self, you become better able to adapt to the changing situations and tough situations. Self-reflection leads to self-awareness. Self-awareness increases your ability to exercise control over your emotions by reducing stress, anxiety, and providing greater sense of well-being. The last example is introspection involves understanding the sources of emotion and how to overcome negative emotion. Emotions are mental states that color your thoughts. Introspection involves understanding your emotions and how they are impacting your thoughts and behavior. This can also involve understanding the sources of emotion and how to overcome negative emotion. For example, a student who feels depressed during exams who understand that this is due to the pressures of studying and that this feeling will soon pass. Thus, we can conclude that introspection method cannot be considered as precise. The limitations can be overcome by proper training and only then it can become effective. Thank you.